It's Saturday, December the 27th, 2025, and thank you once again for tuning into one of my interviews. We are approaching the close of yet another crazy year, and I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend from the United States, Patriot Underground, to review this memorable year. It's always a great pleasure and honor to do a show with him because I think he is one of the most intelligent, respectful, and eloquent podcasters out there. He is gifted with a very unique way of analyzing events or situations, connecting the dots, and he is therefore a major contribution to the truther movement. I personally always enjoy his weekly shows, Mondays with Mike, which he hosts together with Mike King, and not to forget his coffee chats and awesome monologues. Today, we will be discussing the main events of 2025 and President Trump's major achievements. We will also be looking forward to 2026 and a possible scenario of events. And therefore, I have made a short summary of 2025, hopefully in chronological order. In January, of course, we had President Trump's inauguration, and Doge was established by Elon Musk, cutting unnecessary government spending, which, by the way, ceased to exist on November the 23rd. We saw Trump signing an enormous bunch of executive orders. He also brought up the idea of Canada being the 51st state, the US owning the Gaza Strip, as well as Greenland. Zelensky was invited to the Oval Office and he was given a good spanking. The tariffs came into play, and even also the rumors of federal income tax being abolished. President Trump shuts down the US Agency for International Development, the USAID, and signs the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law. The National Guard was also deployed to Washington, D.C. We had the fake Charlie Kirk assassination caused a worldwide stir. President Trump addresses the United Nations with an epic speech. We also saw a government shutdown from the 1st of October to November 12th. And the Epstein Files Transparency Act was signed on November the 19th. That was my birthday. The 28-point peace plan to end the war in Ukraine was presented, and the release of the movie Nuremberg, produced by James Vanderbilt and starring Colin Hanks, two very interesting names there, all referring to tribunals, of course, which Donald Trump is mentioning more and more often. We have the situation around Venezuela, exposing the drug cartels, money flows, and election fraud, and how Tina Peters, who was sentenced to jail for 9 years, ties into all of this. The Russian frozen assets and rising tension between Russia and the EU and the threat of World War III. We are clearly witnessing the controlled demolition of the NATO and the EU, the communist birthchild of Churchill, of course. And the countries that want out of this at this moment are Poland, Italy, Hungary, and Austria. And the latter three, they so happen to be the core of the old Habsburg Empire. And more countries are likely to follow suit. The Clintons had to testify in court. The first batches of Epstein files are released. At the moment, we are witnessing silver spiking like never before. Dan Bongino announces his resignation as deputy CEO of the FBI right after the release of the Epstein files, and apparently there is a way to unredact these files, and that will definitely create a massive amount of new, fresh anons and subsequently speed up things. I'm sure I've forgotten many key events because so much has happened over the past year, but there's still a bunch of items to dive into with my very special guest for tonight. So with no further ado, let me welcome my very good friend, Patriot Underground. Welcome, Patriot. How are you doing?
How you doing, Maestro? Great to be here. And that was a fantastic overview. As a matter of fact, you had asked me to come up with an overview, and I said a little bit too busy with Christmas and all the family stuff I had going on. But that was a fantastic overview, quick shot of the year that almost is almost over, but the year that was 2025. Very, very happy to be here tonight, and always a pleasure to be on your platform.
Well, I couldn't think of anybody better to overview 2025 because you've done such fantastic shows with Mike and with New Treason, and you've got a very clear view on and the trajectory, like you call it, the way things are unfolding and the events. So I couldn't think of anybody better than you to do this show tonight at the end of 2025. So my first question, Patriot, is what is for you the most which is the event or events that stand out for you the most? And how would you evaluate 2025?
Well, that's a big question. I would say that just about everything that you listed in your opening monologue there is all part of the same grand puzzle that's gradually the pieces are gradually sliding together
Yeah.
more and more so with every passing day. So it's really difficult to pinpoint, well, what was the most important thing that happened? Um, I would say that, now that we're approaching the end of 2025, it's been in many ways for me the most difficult year of this entire operation. And not because we didn't have an enormous amount of things to celebrate, but
Mhm.
because of the passage of time. Indeed, there was for a lot of years prior to the beginning of Trump's third term, there was the expectation that was, uh, I would say, fairly well shared by just about everybody in the community that the exposure or the lion's share of the exposure operation was going to happen during the fake Biden years. And indeed, a lot of things did, as we know. Uh, but there was a little bit of an adjustment period for myself and I think a lot of folks out there when we started to realize that 2025 wasn't just going to be the floodgates opening as soon as Donald Trump got inaugurated back in January. It seemed at the time that that might be the case. As you recall, he came right out of the gate and he signed a record number of executive orders. And it didn't seem at the time like there was any real reason for the process to get delayed any longer, going back to our mindset in the beginning of this year.
Mhm.
And as things started to unfold, we gradually came to realize that we were still very much in the exposure phase of the operation. And I would argue that 2025 has been the most significant year on that front in virtually every category. It was the year of exposure. And as we brace ourselves for 2026, of course, we're all praying, hoping, and praying that 2026 is going to be the year of justice. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of how I saw 2025. But indeed, it was a roller coaster ride. It's psychological warfare. It has its peaks and valleys. We've had an enormous amount of things to celebrate, but we've also had an epic number of rug pulls and expectations that didn't go in the direction that we thought it would.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks, we're all at different places along the way of our individual journey. We're all on this big collective journey together, but individually, we're all at different places. And
Mhm.
a lot of folks out there are still struggling with that. They haven't really come to terms with the ebbs and flows of psychological war and just learning how to keep your expectations at a minimum. I mean, we're all human, we have emotions. And so naturally, the byproduct of that is that, we're going to develop to some degree an expectation or series of let's just say things that we anticipate are going to happen. But we have to wear it loosely. And indeed, we have to learn to focus on the 40,000-foot view and take stock of all the victories that we've had. And as you referenced before, as I always call it, the trajectory of the operation is the most important thing for us to stay focused on as we begin this new year. So.
Yeah, this time last year we were wondering when the hell is something going to happen? Nothing's happening, and now it's going so fast and so quick. We can amper. We can hardly catch up with it. Huh?
Well, absolutely. I don't think anybody can say that nothing is happening.
No.
Folks might be able to say, well, we haven't seen the justice phase, we haven't seen the major arrests and those types of things. Okay, but indeed, there's a lot of groundwork, foundational work that needs to be laid, as we've talked about throughout the course of this year, in order to get us to that point. But we're very, very rapidly accelerating on just about every front. When you're talking about Epstein, when you're talking about the stolen election of 2020 now coming back into the spotlight, you recall a couple of weeks ago, Trump said that over the next couple of months, we're going to see all of the information come out about 2020. We have it all. And indeed, really, in the wee hours of the morning on Christmas, he was just posting left and right videos about the stolen election. So that's coming very much into the spotlight now. We've got the Rico Grand conspiracy that's heating up with Obama, of course, being at the center of it all, going back to 2016 with Russiagate, which was the real genesis point of this attempted overthrow of the government. And I
Mhm.
think that's what we're going to see. The White Hats are going to to lay out this case for the American people, bring everybody up to speed on how this ultimate this grand conspiracy ultimately got started back in 2016, how the stolen election was an extension of that when Russiagate didn't actually do what they wanted it to. And then, of course, led us to the 4 years of fake Biden and ultimately to where we're at now. So that's going on. We've got the conversation about the filibuster not going away. Trump is putting that front and center. You mentioned silver. It's like $80 an ounce or something pretty darn close to it. And we just got the news, as a matter of fact, that China is going to be restricting their silver exports. Is going to have a massive influence on the price, in my view. It's not a good thing from an industrial standpoint. It's a bad thing. But from a silver stacker investor perspective, for people looking for the price to continue to rise, that's a massive signal in the right direction. And of course, in the process, as we all know, when silver goes up, that ultimately exposes the fiat system. And so
absolutely. Yeah.
That's all of these things are good news. And I could go on, obviously, with more things that we'll probably get into throughout the course of the show. But point being is that this exposure operation that's been ongoing for 2025 has definitely been heating up in December. And I think the White Hats are giving us a pretty solid indication that we're going to get some major booms in the not too distant future.
Yeah, this silver thing with China as well, it's all part of the plan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, as we know, working with POTUS, and they're driving up. I do believe they're driving up the cost of silver on purpose to expose the banks. And it's actually not a subject that I've really gotten into in a lot of detail since it started. I mean, I have Matt Geiger on my show probably like once a month, and we talk about it a little bit. But you know, it's what it's ultimately doing is it's revealing, it's pulling the curtain back on the fiat system. The fact that the banks owe way more silver than actually exists. You know, that they've got all these shorts. So if the silver price explodes, the banks, they lose hundreds of billions of dollars. Many of the banks, I believe, are going to collapse in the not too distant future. And the only option is for them to try to save the banks is just to continue to print and print and print and print. There's only so long that can go on before the whole system starts to crumble. And indeed, worldwide, there is a gradual and increasing, but gradual realization that the fiat dollar is it's not exactly where you want to be storing all the vast majority of your wealth. It's very, very weak at this point. So you're seeing more and more countries loading up on precious metals, silver in particular. Of course, gold has hit all-time highs as well. So this is all a very, very strong barometer of the fact that we are witnessing the old debt prison system collapsing in real time.
Yeah, it's giving power back to the people as well, eh?
Indeed. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably going to be true in a lot of different forms, but your money is basically it's the physical manifestation of your work, your labor. Yeah. And Trump has indicated many, many times throughout the course of the year that with the tariff income and the External Revenue Service, that eventually the income taxes are going to go away. And we're going to fully realize this golden age that we've been told now is upon us for quite some time. There are a lot of folks out there who are saying, well, I don't feel like I'm experiencing a golden age yet. And I get that, folks, but
he's preparing people, eh?
He's preparing. He's seeding the narrative. You got to remember, all of this stuff has already been done behind the scenes. And as frustrating as it may be, it's a gradual process to roll it out to the people.
Yeah. You mentioned that Christmas Day. I've got this clip of Trump. What you mentioned on Christmas Day is this one.
By the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files, and can you commit to their full?
What?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So They're giving their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly, but they, he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers, and Bill Clinton was a friend of his. But everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, and as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. Mar-a-Lago, this is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And everybody would come here, he'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy, he can handle it, but you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago, many years ago, and they're highly respected bankers and lawyers and others, and they'll end up, because of guys like Massey, who's a real lowlife, whose polls are down to about 9%, by the way, in the great state of Kentucky. If you look at Kentucky, Kentucky is such a great place, but I don't know, they've got a couple of people on there that are very strange in terms of leadership. But Massey's a loser, and he likes it, and that he works with the Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents, and there is tremendous backlash. It's an interesting question, because a lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin a reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues. A lot of Republicans are angry because of the fact that it's just used to deflect against a tremendous success. Look, we have 8.
I believe this was from Christmas Day, Patriot, or not?
Yeah, I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah, because he always talks and speaks in code, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny for anons when you listen to Trump speak. Once you have the basic framework understood, and you've internalized the way that fifth generation war is fought, and it makes interpreting Trump and his words and his actions a lot easier. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump has no love for Bill Clinton. And the way that he talks, it's the same way that he talks about how he loves Israel and he's Israel's greatest friend. Meanwhile, in the background, he's doing everything possible to denigrate the reputation of Israel. And perhaps we can talk about that a little bit later in the show.
Please, yes. Yeah,
but as far as Epstein is concerned, the reality of the matter is that this is all play acting. This is all kayfabe. I don't think for a moment that Donald Trump really hates Thomas Massey. As a matter of fact, I think Massey is a key player, one of the key white hats that's fulfilling his role, play acting his role perfectly. And this is enabling Trump to stand back and act as if he doesn't want any. There's multiple different objectives. He's able to stand back in a sort of a neutral position and to say, I don't want to hurt any of these people. And I think it's a really bad thing that all of these individuals are going to be so embarrassed and exposed when these photos come out, and innocent people, their lives are going to get ruined, because it creates the optics that Trump is trying to prevent this information from coming out. Like he's trying to hide or shield himself from something on the one hand, but then he'll go out like he did on Christmas and say basically that the next batch of documents. I mean, don't you find it strange, Maestro, that on Christmas Eve, they just so happen to stumble across another treasure trove, over 1 million documents on Christmas Eve. It's like, oh, I guess we must have missed that. That must have been the box that I almost tripped over in one of these rooms. Like for anybody to actually think that that all of this information, that these burn bags and all of these treasure troves of evidence that just so happen to be stumbling upon them, you're definitely not an anon. You're not tuned in. But again, you're not the target audience. This is intended for all the normies out there. And it's designed to make Trump look like he's hiding something. And that is the reason that they've been able to get to a 90+% consensus of American people of American citizens who are demanding the release of this information because Trump continues to make it look like they are stonewalling this information from coming out. So
Yeah,
he's giving all the anons the comms to let us know that everything is happening according to plan. But for all the normies out there, he's he's playing his role. Massey's playing his role, continuing to bait the left, continuing to essentially to build this massive consensus around the Epstein files. And I've said it on many different occasions. You can't get 90% of people to agree on just about anything.
No.
But when you've got a political paradigm in the United States that's so divided on the surface, and yet you still have 90% of folks who are demanding the release of this information, that is a direct indication that the process, the plan is actually working. And it's working because Trump is making it appear, he's creating these optics that all of these things are happening in real time, and he's doing everything that he can to try to prevent the information from coming out, to shield himself, to shield a lot of these individuals that he says are innocent. But I think that we're gonna find out some very interesting information, I believe, when this next batch comes out in the near future.
You call it the Streisand effect, huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
And he also has a lot of people that say what he can't say, huh?
Well, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. When I referred to the optics of fifth generation war, that's exactly that. As the president, there are certain positions that he can't take without it being counterproductive to the overall objective of the operation. What is the objective? Well, it's unity. It's getting everybody essentially on the same side, even though they're not aware of it, even though there's still the optics of that division of left and right and people hating Trump and so forth. The whole idea is to get the public to agree on core principles. And I've made the case over and over with Epstein, with the judicial tyranny that we've seen, the poll numbers across the board. I mean, the confidence in the judicial system, the confidence in Congress, the credibility of the mainstream media, all of the different aspects of how we've been lied to and we've been gaslit, and the government has essentially insulated itself, are recognized on both sides of the aisle. There's still the optics of division, but those are really just, you can scratch the veneer of that. And beneath that, you see more and more that people are aligned in the areas that they're supposed to be. And that, again, is an indication that the psychological operations that we've been subjected to now for years are actually working.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of exposing more and more information. And the more that comes out, the more that unity is going to build. And eventually, as we know, as Q told us, the Democratic Party will cease to exist. And Trump made that very clear when this next batch of documents comes out, and these pictures and all of this evidence, it could be the last Christmas for all of these Democrats. He actually said something like that.
I think
Joy will be your last Merry Christmas or something.
Yeah, indeed. I think in due time, this two-party system will cease to exist.
It has to.
It
has to, because it's a false paradigm.
Yeah.
It's the whole dynamic behind the New World Order, behind the cabal, was divide and conquer. And so that was the initial division. Okay. So let's divide the people, liberals and conservatives.
Yeah.
And essentially it's just two wings of the same bird. I mean, not to suggest that we all have the same political ideology, but most of that division is driven by the political parties themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it, I mean, just take the Charlie Kirk event. We'll call it an event. In the aftermath of that, there were a number of different polls that were done.
Mm-hmm.
And 90+%, again, 92% of people that were polled said that they wanted to see more unity in our culture, in our political paradigm. I honestly don't believe that most Americans really like the two-party system. There are some people on the, in both camps that are very well entrenched, as we know, but the vast majority of people out there, they just want government to work the way that it's intended. They want to be able to live their lives. They want the power to be given back to them. They want to be able to keep more of their money. They want to be able to have a say over how they raise their kids. They don't want the state encroaching upon them. And I believe that probably represents a vast majority of the political spectrum. So it's a long, drawn out process, but it's all designed to dissolve those artificial divisions that have been so thoroughly ingrained. Most people don't even realize that we have a lot more in common than we do in terms of our differences. It's about getting people to recognize the core problems. We can disagree about the best path forward in terms of how to solve most of these issues, but it's about getting people to recognize that we have a common enemy. And once that becomes widely accepted, that completely changes the whole nature of politics, because the left isn't going to be pointing to the right and blaming us, and the right isn't going to be pointing to the left and blaming them, but rather we're going to be recognizing that we've been played off against each other.
Yeah,
very effectively.
absolutely.
And that's a paradigm that's going to go away. Whether or not the Republican Party remains in its current form or not, we're going to have to see how that ultimately plays out. But I wouldn't be too surprised if at the end of all this, we see a new political party emerge, or perhaps just no political parties at all. And it's just going to be individuals who are America first, who are patriots, and it's going to start here in America. And as we've seen, ever since Trump came on the political scene, it's already spread throughout the world. We have more and more of these populist leaders who are getting increasingly popular in every country, because generally speaking, that's what people want. They just want to be able to live their lives without a boot on their throat. And the left has been convinced that it's that we're the fascists, and we want to take away all their rights. And likewise, the right has believed. I think the right has honestly had a good reason to believe that for a very long time, because that was indeed that was one of the primary goals of the New World Order. But again, this is all about unity, and Q made it very clear that that really is the objective at the end of the day. And it's not about political parties. We're always going to have our differences, but it's the parties themselves that keep that sense of division, that perpetual division where people are going at each other's throats and not even having constructive dialogue. That's what keeps us in this quagmire. And most folks want that to go away.
It's all about citizen leadership, huh?
Yes.
Citizen leadership, yeah.
Yep.
We've got a question here, Patriot, from the chat. Are we watching different Trumps? Did they have a deep state Trump? That is the one that folks would see doing these acts in the Epstein files. Hard to know how this will play out.
Oh, Joe and Scott, huh?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the real Joe and Scott.
So do I think that there are two different Trumps? Yeah, I think there probably are multiple different ones.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's a quote unquote deep state Trump that is being controlled by the enemy. I think we're well beyond that. Even quite frankly, even having that discussion. I've heard that going back several years, that there was a quote unquote deep state version of Trump, and they were using him to push this New World Order agenda and so on and so forth. I don't believe that at all. I personally, I think that the only individuals left in the cabal are the low-level minions at this point. And all the top dogs have been taken out. The people that would be puppeteering, let's just say there were a Trump, a fake Trump that they were controlling, we're long past the point of them having that kind of power to be able to, to gaslight the people and into thinking that this was the real Trump, but it's actually theirs. They're all gone at this stage.
Yeah. I don't think the black hat Trump would get so much exposure as well, eh?
Right. Oh, I guess what this really comes down to, big picture here, is do you really think that the deep state is still in power? Yeah. Sure, at a low level, they still have their minions running around. That's kind of what I was suggesting. But in order for there to be a different version of Trump that's being presented as the president, think about that logically, what that would mean. That would mean that the deep state cabal was still in control behind the scenes, and they were putting this fake character out there in order to enact their agenda. Now, I'm completely opposed to that. I think it's just the opposite, that the deep state cabal has been out of business now for a very long time. Now, we might be seeing, when you asked, or when Joe and Scott asked, are there multiple different Trumps? Sure. We might be seeing another, like a body double, of Trump, or an actor in a mask in a lot of the public appearances that he makes, because the real Donald Trump is actually insulated in a hidden location or something along those lines. That could be, that certainly could be the case in certain situations. But I think we're well beyond the point where the deep state would wield that kind of power to be able to put a fake Trump out there, because that would mean that they were still in control of the media. That would mean that they were still pulling all the strings behind the scenes. And obviously they're not, because we're seeing all of this exposure that we just spoke of happen. If they were in control, none of these things would be coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. I just mentioned in my announcement that there's a way to unredact these Epstein files. I'll just watch this clip. It's this one.
Look at this pesky redaction. Let's just get rid of that.
That is insane.
This is what happens when you fire government.
Do you think this is fake or this is real? What's your opinion?
Oh no, it's real. I've seen a lot of different videos. Yeah, where they, and I think this is all part of the script. Quite honestly.
Yeah.
Mark Atwood did a great video on that.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
where he talked about how they just turned the entire world into Anons. People realize, oh my gosh, all they had to do is copy and paste it, and they can unredact it themselves. And I posted a comment clip to that saying it's almost as if it was scripted that way.
Yeah. And what does Q say? The choice to know will be yours, eh?
Exactly.
So you've got a lot of people now starting to download these files, and it's going to go wild. I think it's going to snowball this.
We haven't seen anything yet.
No,
that's the other thing that folks need to remember. I mean, yes, we got a couple of new, we got a couple of new nuggets come out with the last batch, and that's sort of what we anticipated. We may get a little bit more information, but we haven't even begun to scratch the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Epstein. We're talking about, and it's not just Epstein Island, it's the Zorro Ranch, it's all of these different islands down in the Caribbean, but also his Zorro Ranch, where they were doing all sorts of genetic testing, and
chimeras.
Yeah, exactly. And adrenochrome harvesting and satanic ritual abuse and all of the things that the general public at this point still hasn't even been introduced to all that stuff.
And you know what it is, Patriot? It's not just America, it's worldwide, this, huh? It's all over the place. It's Asia, it's Europe, it's
yeah.
It's Ukraine. It's
and that's why when we talk about the cabal structure, the top down structure, right at the top of that are the Zionists and their co-collaborators, who I believe were all taken out of business. And the bloodline families, all of these individuals were taken out in the very early days of Trump's first administration. You might even argue that before Q even started posting. Sorry, go ahead.
Wasn't that the year before Q started in the Christmas time, so around there, Christmas?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of covert special operations going on in order to take down the Rothschilds, in order to take down the other bloodline families, the black nobility, the Zionist leadership in Israel. That was their first order of business. Yeah. And that's why I said before about the whole fake Trump thing. I mean, you would have to, in order for that to be the case, these individuals would still have to be in power. Yeah. And the reality is that we're only being given the illusion that power structure still exists, so that the public rollout can actually happen and people can believe, all the normies will believe that it's happening in real time. But indeed, we're watching a scripted movie, as I'm sure everybody in your audience is well aware. And I know my audience, they hear me say that and Mike say that all the time.
Well, you still got a lot of people that are doubting, and as long as it proceeds, people are jumping off the wagon, and blackpilling everybody else. And then my remark is, these people haven't studied the Q drops enough.
Well, that, and they also don't really
trust faith.
Yes, I would say that there's probably, and by the way, we all go through periods of this where we take our eye off the big picture and we focus on self, because all of us want this to be over. And the reality of the matter is, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke and try to tell everyone that, that, oh, it's just been this nice, easy cakewalk of a process. The fact is, it's been very difficult. And indeed, there are a lot of people out there who are struggling financially. There are a lot of people who are desperately hoping for these and praying for these new health modalities to come out, whether it's med beds or whether it's, I mean, Q told us basically in rhetorical form that cures already exist. So indeed, and that's to say nothing, by the way, of what you and I were talking about before we went live, is just that sense of alienation and that sense of isolation that continues to be very much a reality in our life. So it's like we're all suffering. And because of that, there's a tendency sometimes to take your mind in and your focus off of the 40,000 foot view, off of the trajectory of the operation, and focus on yourself and get sucked into the optics of the movie. And that's why Q told all of us that you got to be very careful who you follow, because there are a lot of individuals out there that are going to feed into that. And they're going to tell you, oh, nothing's happening. Oh, look at all of these bad things that are going on. But they don't understand. Some of these individuals may understand and they may be very conscious of what they're doing. But the ones who aren't, they don't understand the nature of fifth generation war, the way that this battle has to be fought. It has to be done this way so that people will come to what appears to them to be a gradual, organic awakening process where you win the hearts and minds of the people. That's the only way that on the other side of this storm, that society is going to continue to function, first of all, and not just unravel at the seams, but also moving forward, that we're going to be able to build upon this new foundation. If you try to just dump everything out there prematurely before people are ready to process it and handle it, it's going to backfire in a million different ways. And for people who question that, I just ask them, how did it go the last time you tried to red pill your family? How did it go the last time, you sat down at Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner or any other occasion and tried to point out some very basic things to people? It doesn't work. People reject the information. The only way that they're going to be willing to absorb it is if these psychological operations create the optics and the illusion that everything is actually unfolding in real time and these people are actually coming to their own conclusions about the world. That's how you arrive at a place where people are finally ready for the big stuff.
You can't tell them, you have to show them.
You have to. That's just the reality of it. And sure, there are a lot of stuff. Like I saw someone in the chat mention chemtrails. Well, if the deep state isn't in control, then what's up with all the chemtrails and so forth? My argument would be, number one, we're not exactly sure. Not to get into a big conversation about this, but we're not exactly sure what's in those chemtrails. Number one, and number two, it's all about getting people to awaken to it. They have to be able to see it.
Look up instead of looking down on your smartphone.
Right. Don't you think it's much more effective to have what appears to be the same poisoning going on so that people can be aware of it, just like with everything else? That's the reason that for this parallel construction strategy, as I call it, with the deep state, the game plan, the playbook, as Q told us, is known. So the white hats understood and studied and basically reverse engineered the deep state's agenda, and they built the Great Awakening parallel to that. Why? So that people, to do exactly what you just said, to show the people. You have to show them, you have to create the optics, even though the good guys are in control. If you want to awaken the masses, you have to create the optics like, holy crap, we're going down this really dark road here. And look at all of these things that are wrong in the government. Look at all this judicial tyranny. Look at the chemtrails in the sky. Look at what's going on with Big Pharma. You have to get people riled up. Like Dave on News Treason says all the time, controversy breeds conversation. And once people are exposed to this stuff sufficiently enough, at a significant level where they're ready to finally actually pay attention, that's when the Great Awakening starts to happen. And it has to be this way. There's no other option, because if things were done prematurely, then everything would have backfired. Going back to 2020, especially at that point in time, If we got what we wanted back then, we probably would have been engaged in a civil war, an actual kinetic civil war. If the enormity, I mean, Q told us the enormity of what's coming is going to shock the world. So you can imagine, you take a population that hasn't been sufficiently prepped, that hasn't had this drip, 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 drip go on for years to seed all of these ideas, and you just dump that out on the society, people would be absolutely. I mean, some people would just a lot of people would commit suicide. Other people would get violent. A lot of people would just lose their minds and never come back.
Yeah.
We were told that we were going to lose 4 to 6%.
Yeah.
And even though that seems like a small number, that's actually an enormous amount of people. Think about 4 to 6% of the entire world population.
Yeah.
I mean, you may have been referring to the U.S. specifically, but we know that this is a worldwide operation. Indeed, we're talking to an international audience right now, bringing people together. So that's a lot of people that are never going to accept the truth. But still, in all, on the flip side of that, if you get 95% of the United States population, and then by extension of the world, to accept these realities, then you've clearly won the war. But it has to be done through this fifth generational lens. So the people that are going back to your question, I know this is a long-winded response, kind of my specialty, but why are people getting black-pilled? Why are people losing hope? Well, I would say it's a combination of things, really. People are exhausted, and that's completely understandable. The fatigue is real. There are a lot of influences out there who are not doing anybody any favors, constantly focusing on the negative, as opposed to what I try to do and what you try to do and people in our general orbit try to do, which is to focus on everything positive that's actually happening to get people to see through the optics. But the fact is, Maestro, it's a choice. Each of us has a choice. We can decide whether or not we're going to trust the plan, and whether or not we trust the U.S. military and we trust our president, whether we recognize that we'd probably all be dead by now, or we'd be in extermination camps if it weren't for this operation. You can choose to focus on that, or you can try to go down that other road and think that you've been duped by this whole process, even though all of the evidence in my mind seems to suggest the exact opposite. The fact is, everything that you listed at the top of the episode tonight, not a single one of those things ever would have transpired if the deep state were actually still in control. Donald Trump, from the beginning, he's been anathema to them. He's like the antithesis of the deep state agenda. And not to mention the fact, and I'll end with this so you can pop back in here. I've said it many times, and just for the sake of your audience, I'll say it again. They had us in 2016 exactly where they wanted us. Okay. Practically nobody was awake back then compared to where we are now. So explain it. No one's ever been able to effectively explain this. I've issued this challenge many times. Explain to me why the deep state, if they had us exactly where they wanted, they had us over a barrel, all they had to do was get Hillary Clinton in there to finish the job that Obama started. Why then would they take this massive 16-year detour in their plan and in the process create an entire army worldwide of anons, of awakened individuals? Why would they air all their dirty laundry, expose all of their secrets? Why would all of this conversation about Israel and Epstein and the Grand Greco conspiracy going back to 2016, the stolen election? Why? I mean, this is literally all we're hearing about right now. And there are people out there who still want a black pill. Who do you think is in control if those are the narratives that are filling up social media? You really think that it's the deep state? They would be wielding all of their power to do exactly the opposite, to memory hole all this stuff. We wouldn't be having conversations about Epstein. First of all, we'd all be dead. Okay. But even if we weren't dead, we'd be censored. We wouldn't be having these conversations about Israel, about Epstein, about the stolen election, about taking down the cartels, on and on and on and on. And of course, with the financial system as well, I think you could probably make a pretty solid case that if the private central banks were still in control, we wouldn't be seeing silver skyrocketing either.
It's unbelievable.
So just sit back, folks. It's like you have to sit back and you have to just take stock of all of these things and remember, ask yourself the question: who benefits from all of these things happening? I get it. People are frustrated. People are angry. They want resolution. They want relief. All of that stuff is going to come, but we are at war.
Yeah.
And we are in the final phases of that war, engaged in the most difficult aspect of it of all, which is awakening a public that has been brainwashed for generations. The kinetic stuff was relatively easy in comparison. And that's why 2025 was such a difficult year in a lot of ways, going through these ebbs and flows of fifth generation war where, you know, the exposure happens and we think, okay, the exposure happens, now arrest someone, right? But it doesn't work that way. No. There have to be the rug pulls. There have to be the delays. You know, it's like the metaphor of the chef in the kitchen, cooking the meal, putting stuff on the front burner, back burner, etc. That's the reason it's playing out this way.
You have to make people.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You have to make people eager as well, eh?
Yeah, eager is one way to say it. I would say another way to say it is angry.
Yeah.
They want people to be angry. And that's why General Flynn, who's at the center of this operation, virtually everything that General Flynn posts, from, I guess, from an optical standpoint, it looks like he's being critical of Trump. It looks like he's being critical of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, saying, how come we can't have any, how come nobody's been arrested yet? We need action. We need, and it's like, you read that from a normie perspective, and it looks as if this guy is just basically, he's mirroring what is the general sentiment that the White Hats have created, which is, we want justice. We want transparency. Nothing is happening. That's what they want the normies to believe. Yeah. But what separates us from all the normies, of course, is we're not normies. We are anons. And we're supposed to be able to look at the big picture and recognize, especially given all the comms that they keep throwing in our direction to reassure us, that nothing is as it seems on the surface. It's beneath the surface. That's where you're going to get the true picture, the true barometers of what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm. They never thought she would lose, eh?
That's right. They never thought she would lose, because if she, and again, why, if you want to go with this idea that we've all been duped and that Trump is actually a bad guy and he's really just a deep state plant to get us to all basically lay down while the New World Order gets rolled out, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But if you wanted to go with that idea, again, answer that question. Why wouldn't they just have Hillary win? Because that would mean that Trump was just as bad as the rest of them. Why wouldn't you just have Hillary Clinton come in and finish out your agenda? You know, they hit us with the pandemics, the real pandemics, hit us with World War III, the lockdowns, the 5 years lockdowns, all of that stuff. None of that happened because Donald Trump and the White Hats came along. And you're right. Yep. They never thought she would lose. So
they have the FEMA camps, they have the caskets, the coffins where 3 or 4 people can be dumped into. The stacks of hundreds of thousands of black coffins. I can still remember these videos.
And the guillotines. Let's not forget those.
The guillotines as well. It's unbelievable. It's medieval times, eh?
That's what they had planned for us. And that's why I get so passionate when I have this conversation, not because I don't understand people's frustration. Mm-hmm. And you've been following me for a long time. I don't shy away from it. Like, if I'm going through a period where I'm questioning things or I'm unhappy about the way certain things are happening, I've been very transparent about that. And I've shared those feelings with my audience. I understand it. But what's always the most important factor is that I have to bring myself back to the beginning and remind myself of not only why it had to be this way, but where we would be right now if it weren't for the United States military, if it weren't for the White Hats, if it weren't for Donald Trump coming forward to be the front man of this military operation, we'd all be dead.
That's a
fact.
Absolutely. I think this military is worldwide as well. It's not just America. It's an international.
Oh, it's a worldwide coalition. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, when I say the U.S., I mean, obviously it's centered in the United States. And, Q asked that question rhetorically many times. Do you trust the U.S. military? Mm-hmm. But indeed, it is a worldwide, it's a worldwide alliance. There's no question about it. Mm-hmm. And all of the optics that we're seeing in other countries, Israel is a great example. We're still seeing the Likud government with Netanyahu and all that. That wouldn't be possible if there weren't white hats in Israel, would it?
Which version of Satan Yahoo is this?
Oh gosh, I've lost track.
And still people can't see the difference. Huh? I mean, when you look at Biden, the real Biden, the senator that tried to dupe Scott Ritter, and this old Biden that stumbles upstairs, and still people can't see the difference. It's unbelievable, eh?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, I think I look at it this way. I mean, you go back to 2016 and that was in a lot of ways, it was, first of all, the white hats had to establish a beachhead in Washington. They had to get Trump into power, but it also had to be a legitimate election. So as we know, they prevented Hillary ultimately from stealing the election. Trump won fair and square. They got in there. And that was primarily, it was the lion's share of the kinetic covert operations that took place in Trump's first term. And then we had the fake Biden years, which was really the beginning of the red pilling process. I mean, for 4 years, we saw a fake president.
It was a slapstick. It was a slapstick patriot.
Right, exactly. So even though a lot of people out there wouldn't admit it,
Yeah.
they were experiencing an enormous amount of cognitive dissonance while fake Biden was in office. And indeed, like I mentioned earlier in the show, myself and I would say most people out there who are anons and paying attention at the time anticipated that the White Hats were going to use the fake Biden administration fully for
Arrests.
the exposure process that was ultimately going to lead into the arrest.
Yeah.
And there was very little anticipation that Trump was going to come back into power after having the election stolen from him, and that the exposure operation was going to continue all throughout 2025. But we're looking at essentially like a 3-act play. That's the way I see it.
I think
that third term is the third act.
Yeah, I think so much has happened during Biden's term. They've done a hell of a lot of work that we don't see yet, maybe.
Oh my goodness, yeah, absolutely. The entire infrastructure for the new system.
Yeah.
It's particularly the new financial system, but worldwide, just while we were all paying attention to this, that was the era of distraction in a lot of ways. Some people still say that, oh, what are they trying to distract us from? See, now I think we're beyond the distraction phase, because all of that infrastructural maneuvering had to happen while the public was distracted in a million different ways, whether it was with COVID at the end of Trump's first term, or whether it was in the fake Biden years while they were engaged in all these covert operations. But now they actually they don't want people to be distracted anymore. They want people to be paying attention to the real issues. And notice how it wasn't until really 2025. I mean, think about what happened this year. Go back to 2024. Was anybody really talking about Israel? Not really. I mean, sure, it was always a part of the Anon community conversation, but now it's absolutely everywhere. You got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, and on the left you've got the Young Turks and John Oliver and all of these other, on both sides. It's like this pincer attack maneuver, narrative maneuver to put Israel in the spotlight that happened in 2025. The same thing happened with Epstein. Like, nobody cared. Nobody was talking about any of these things until this year. And these are the most important issues, because ultimately what they're doing is they're exposing the head of the snake, the Zionist head of the snake. Not just, and again, this is not a condemnation of Jews. All right. It never has been, and it never will be. This is a condemnation of evil. This is a satanic, for those people who may not be aware, this is a satanic cult, a Khazarian mafia cult that had hijacked the Jewish religion, going all the way back to the 10th or 11th century in Russia. And there's a whole story there. I'm not going to get into it, but the reality is it's not about saying, oh, all the Jews are bad, we just got to get rid of all the Jews. No, that's not the point. The point is that this is the Khazarian mafia that's been masquerading as Jews for centuries. And what we've seen happen, particularly in 2025, is all of their shields are being dismantled. The anti-Semitism stuff doesn't work anymore. The racism stuff doesn't work anymore. The labels in general don't work anymore. People just don't care. They want to have a substantive conversation about who's actually controlling our government. And this whole fake fissure, if you will, or this this divide within the MAGA movement that you've been hearing so much about. Oh, is it Israel first or is it America first? That's exactly what the white hats want the core of the conversation to be. And yes, Trump and the people in his administration are playing that role perfectly. He surrounded himself with, oh, I love Israel. He's got all of these supposed Zionists in his administration. But isn't it interesting, Maestro, that despite the most powerful man in the world and all of his cabinet and all of the people who seem to be in his general sphere of influence being pro-Israel, what's happening? Israel, their reputation, their public approval rating is swirling around the toilet right now. So that just goes to show you what the real agenda is. So on the surface, yes, people are like, oh my God, Trump is really Jewish. Oh, he's actually a Zionist. Oh, we're all getting played. Meanwhile, everyone is talking about Israel. And I mean, you could go back, of course, to 10/7 when this whole process really kicked off. But it wasn't until 2025 that it really ramped up. So you have all of these individuals supposedly that Trump is in bed with the Zionists and, you know, believing all of these things about how he's really an Israel first president, how he's destroying MAGA and all this stuff. And there's this big fracture. It's all an illusion. That's what I keep trying to convey to people, is that Trump, and Mike King explains this, I think, better than anybody. You know, you know, somebody just put there in the comment section, keep your enemies close, right? Yeah, I guess so, but I think the enemy's already been eliminated. That's the only thing I would say on that front. But, you know, Trump, he acts all like, you know, he's kissing Israel and he's just, oh, he's embracing them. I'm Israel's best friend and so forth. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, they're doing everything they can to manufacture this negative viewpoint on Israel from a vast majority of the population. I mean, more and more people are now paying attention and saying, wow, why does Israel have so much influence in our government? Who is our president really serving and so forth? And I know it can get confusing for folks because you think, okay, well, eventually there's going to have to be a pivot. Eventually there's going to have to be some sort of an aha moment where Trump and his administration go, oh, you know, we can't be associated with this anymore. And I think that's very rapidly approaching. I continue to believe that it's going to be 10/7, the truth about 10/7 coming out. That's going to be a hop, skip, and a jump to 9/11 truth. We're already seeing the USS Liberty get mentioned. Tucker Carlson mentioned that at America Fest. So the Overton window, AIPAC is basically been neutered behind the scenes. It's just the illusion of AIPAC. All of these things are in the control of the Q operation at this point. So I'll leave it.
Even JFK tried to get rid of the AZC, yeah? The American Zionist Council of American Zionist Conference or Committee, something like it.
Right.
This was before AIPAC was there, but even then he said this has to be recommended as a foreign entity. Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted them to register as foreign agents.
Absolutely,
yeah. I mean, gosh, JFK is such a big conversation, but you know, to put it simply, yes, he wanted to shatter the CIA into a million pieces. Yes, he was moving to take us away from put us back on the precious metal system.
Yep.
Yes, he was doing everything that he could to try to dissolve this fiat debt model, and all of that is true. But ultimately, I believe that it was his opposition to Israel acquiring a nuclear weapon that directly led to his assassination. In other words, there were no shortage of reasons that they wanted to get rid of JFK. Okay, the same reasons that they wanted to get rid of Trump, because they recognized that he was an existential threat. But it was ultimately the opposition to Israel acquiring a nuclear weapon and lying to JFK about their operations at Dimona. He was trying to get them to register, to get AIPAC to register as a foreign lobby, on and on and on. So that's when the real modern iteration of the Q operation began back in the 60s. Goes back all the way to the Civil War era. But
it does. I mean, even David Ben Gurion, the Israeli prime minister, he abdicated, I think, 2 days after the JFK assassination. So his tasks were fulfilled. Yeah, he did his job. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, yeah. I mean, just to go into the chemtrails, well, she mentioned chemtrails a while back, Patriot.
Yeah.
What I see, sometimes there's days you have beautiful weather, beautiful blue skies, and all of a sudden you see all these stripes, and it's like crisscross all over the place. Like this morning, it was terrible, and then it goes all milky, and then the sun comes out, and sometimes they just disappear. And you have this days going on, and then it's 3 days, nothing, 4 days, nothing. And could it be a way, like you said, to get people, instead of looking down at the smartphone, look up, for one? And could it be that if it was the deep state that was still doing this, they would do this 24/7, or not?
I don't think that the deep state is engaged in doing chemtrails at this point in time.
No.
And let's put it this way: if there are certain operations going on, I believe that it's all being done by the White Hats in order to get people to actually to gain awareness of this operation, because this was a big part of their arsenal, if you will, of
depopulation.
And of course, we've been gaslit for decades now that these are actually just condensation trails. There's nothing to see here, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're going through the process of the Great Awakening, you have to continue to, at least to some degree, you have to keep those threats viable, because you have to get people to awaken to them. Yeah, in other words, like you can't eliminate the threat completely and expect that people are actually going to wake up to it. And it's the same thing ultimately with the vaccines. I mean, just to a certain degree, there had to be a viable threat there in order for people to see the end result of what the enemy was doing. Look, you can't have it both ways. If you're at war one way or another, there is going to be a threat. There is going to be people who don't awaken to the threat, who do end up dying as the result. So
these are the war casualties, eh?
What's that?
These are the war casualties. It's a war, eh?
It is a war. And that's the thing, is that some people have this unrealistic expectation where they think that, well, if the White Hats are in control, that they should basically just, that they should eliminate any and all of these threats. Okay, but you want the real goal isn't so much to just eliminate the threats, it's to get the general population to awaken to them and be aware, so that this doesn't happen again. And so the only way to effectively do that is to keep it in I would say, like a controlled situation, so that the threat still exists, whether it be with the vaccine, or whether it be with the chemtrails, or whether it be with just in general big pharma medications or big food. I mean, obviously, over the past year, especially with RFK, we've seen massive strides in the right direction, and people are just like, well, we want it all done now. And it's like, okay, we all want that, but you're forgetting, this is the same point I made a little bit earlier, but it's worth repeating here and underscoring. You're forgetting what the operation is really designed to do. It's not just about removing the threat. It's about getting people to awaken and to activate, to get people to the precipice where they finally are willing to get involved in the process and willing to pay attention, so that this doesn't happen again. And you can't do that in a situation where everybody feels like there's no threats. Like the Deus Ex Machina hand just comes in and removes all the threats and takes everything away. There's not going to be any great awakening. People aren't going to, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. Again, you have to have the controversy. You have to have people asking questions. Hey, what the hell are all those things in the sky? Right? You have to get more and more people to dig into it. If they don't see it, they're not going to pay attention. If they don't think that there's a threat or don't sense that there's a threat, people aren't going to awaken to the threat. So you have to continue to have those optics. And yes, to a certain degree, the threat has to be real if you want to achieve those objectives, but you can't have it both ways. Either if you want all of the threats to be just eliminated overnight, Sure, that I suppose to a degree the white hats could have done that, but there'd be no Great Awakening.
Mhm.
And nobody would even be the wiser about it. So you get rid of the chemtrails, you get rid of the, the bad vaccines and so on and so forth. It would happen again in a heartbeat because nobody would be paying attention. Nobody would be vigilant about it.
Mhm.
And nobody would actually, invest themselves in the process of learning about all of these things in the way that we did to become Anons in the first place. The whole point is to create a whole, like Mark Atwood said, like a whole society worth of Anon, consisting of Anons, people who get it, people who are paying attention and asking questions. The only way to do that,
Mhm.
the only way to do that is to keep those threats viable. And we can debate all day long about, well, do we really know what's inside of those chemtrails that we're seeing in the sky?
Yeah.
I mean, how do we really verify whether or not it's still actual poison, whether it's maybe it's some degree of it, but dialed down significantly so it's not doing as much damage? We certainly know with the vaccines that if it was the actual vaccine that the deep state had in mind, if it was their plan, it'd be
Mhm.
like the Black Plague. I mean, there'd be bodies stacked up outside. We didn't get that. We got people who had, ended up with cardiac arrest. We've had people with myocarditis. We've had a lot of these other things. So I
Cancers.
guess to a degree that had to be a part of the way that this operation played out. Otherwise, people wouldn't get it, and people
Mhm.
wouldn't be asking the important questions. And the other thing we have to remember, I'll just add this one other thing: we were given an option. We were given a choice. All right, nobody had a gun to their head. I mean, sure, in certain countries and in certain situations, depending upon your employment and all of these things, certain individuals had much more pressure applied to them. But the reality of the matter is that we were not forcibly vaccinated. We were not shipped off into essentially concentration camps, which are extermination camps.
Yeah.
None of these things happen. And we were also told, for those of us who had eyes to see and ears to hear at the time, we were told, we were warned about these vaccines, how dangerous they were. And, you just evidence that with, I mean, all the Anons all day long. Doesn't matter what Trump said about the vaccine. Nobody was going to get it because we all did our own research. We already knew that we had to, to steer clear of that. And that's ultimately where they want to get people. They need to engineer that, though, by having viable threats. It's just the reality of warfare.
Yeah. Do you think the EBS, because the EBS has been mentioned many a time, do you think the EBS will be necessary?
Yes,
I mean, will there be a point that the disclosure and the awareness is so fast that we don't need an EBS? I would love an EBS so you get people up to speed in a quick way. But yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of talk initially about the EBS, and then we're going to have these long movies playing on a loop, bringing everybody up to speed and so forth. I think that made a lot more sense before we got into 2025 and we realized that the exposure operation was only just beginning.
Mhm.
So to your point, a lot more people have woken up throughout the process. Quite frankly, I think the EBS question hinges upon a larger question, which is, are we going to see the optics of justice play out in the civilian system, or are we going to see a very overt transition into a temporary martial law military takeover?
Mhm.
I happen to believe it's the latter. I do not think that we are going to see. We might see some of the gearing up for the justice phase in the civilian system, but I don't think it's really going to play out that way. As a matter of fact, when you think about 2025 as a whole, what we've continually seen over and over is a corrupt judiciary. We've seen. Oh, you lose me?
Sorry. No.
Oh, okay, there I am. No, what I was saying was we've continued to see judicial tyranny on display all over the place throughout this entire year, and we can
Mhm.
only anticipate that that's going to continue. Recent example, all right, Speaker Mike Johnson. I don't know if you saw you know, the YouTuber Nick Shirley, he did a huge expose exposing all of the fraud in Minneapolis, the Somali daycares that were getting millions and millions and millions of dollars in taxpayer funds. And he went around basically saying that these are all empty buildings. I mean, it's pure fraud. And Johnson came out essentially and said that, you know, that he has no plans to, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but there's no appetite or plans to go after Tim Walz for all this stuff. Okay. And you know, so Mike Johnson, he's Trump's guy. So what's going on there? Again, this is all part of the kayfabe. It's designed to get people saying, excuse my language, but what the fuck? What the fuck is going on? Why aren't these people being held accountable? Mm-hmm. And the more that we see that, the more we see the judicial tyranny, the activist judges, the politicians who are putting up roadblocks, the gaslighting, the slow rolling of, you know, everything from Epstein to the, you know, the RICO Grand conspiracy, on and on and on. The more apt I am to believe that eventually we're going to get to a tipping point where the public is beyond awake and they are absolutely livid. So I guess the point is that to put it simply, I think the EBS represents that hard transition into military jurisdiction. We were told the only way is the military. To think logically, the only way is the military. And from where I'm sitting right now, the civilian system does not look like it's gearing up to process 600,000 sealed indictments with up to 99 people on each one. That in and of itself would take decades. I mean, you and I would probably be long dead by the time that situation all played out. So I think military jurisdiction. I absolutely believe that what Q told us in Drop 34 is spot on accurate, that eventually we are going to get that tweet from the president. My fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. How we're going to get there, what the timeline is going to be, what the events that are going to lead, that's anybody's guess. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that the emergency broadcast is going to play a key role in the transition into military jurisdiction. So I've never wavered on that, honestly.
No, and I think the EBS will only be deployed when people can digest what's going to be told. They can't deploy it when 80% of the people are not up to speed. What's going on? Eh?
Yep, absolutely. And I've continued to reference the 90% of Epstein, people who want transparency on Epstein. But here's what you got to understand, though. They think that it's some politicians and Epstein, you know, powerful people basically having sex with some underage teenage girls. Okay, that's what most of the general population thinks is going on with Epstein.
It's far worse than that.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? It's like, I mean, that's as horrible as that is. By the way, I'm not condoning having, you know, like, I mean, obviously, I'm not condoning the idea of having sex with underage teenagers. Okay, but in comparison to what is actually going on, or what actually did go on, that's just, like I said before, that's the tip of the iceberg. And quite frankly, most of the individuals out there in normie land, they have no idea. I mean, we're talking about the adrenochrome harvesting, the satanic ritual abuse. We're talking about infants, toddlers and infants, not only being raped, but being systematically tortured and killed, their organs harvested. And it just gets darker and darker and darker, as you know, and I'm sure your audience knows. The point I'm making is that the people who are demanding the Epstein files have no idea what they're even demanding. They have no idea what they're even asking for. So that's something we got to keep in mind.
The most of them are after Trump, eh?
Exactly.
They're going to be in for a very, very bad awakening. I mean, we're thinking in terms of frazzle drip. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Frazzle drip is an example that we've all heard about. But it's a level of depravity that even us, the initiated, the Anons, have a difficult time wrapping our brain around it, even after all these years of exposing ourselves to these truths. The general public thinks, particularly on the left, they're using Trump as the bait, like we already went over. They think that they're going to see, oh, look, Trump was getting it on with these underage girls, and he was at that island and so forth, and they were going to use that as a way of bringing him down. But this is going to open up, I mean, proverbial Pandora's box. I mean, we're talking about opening up the gates of hell.
We
and
still remember
the public to that, and that's ultimately what we're building up to.
Yeah, we still remember this clip, Patriot.
Specifically did not look at the BlackBerry backups, and they didn't look at a fraction of the emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop. So one of the things, if I were the president, I'd do is demand the Anthony Weiner laptop and get it to the most trusted person in the military to take apart everything on it and then start using it. There's a lot that can be prosecuted, I have no doubt, on that laptop. In fact, I heard that the New York police officers who saw some of it, even though they're hardened investigators, literally had to go throw up. It's bad.
I'm assured that's it. Cash asked the same questions. Assured there's no more. I found out, this week that a source told me New York, SDNY, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands. And of course, you've seen the very strong letter. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. We will redact it, of course, to protect grand jury information and confidential witnesses, but the American people have a right to know. And Donald Trump is the most transparent president in our nation's history. So not only will America get the full Epstein files, they will get JFK, they will get Martin Luther King.
And it reminds me straight away, Patriot, of the shooting at Bondi Beach in Sydney. So we see Pam Bondi here, and we see Sidney Powell. Is that a I mean, we all know this shooting at the Bondi Beach was one big hoax. It wasn't a shooting like the Charlie Kirk shooting. Wasn't a shooting. It was a stage play. Oh, yeah. But are we seeing Sidney Powell returning to the righteous place where she should be?
I hope so. I really do hope so. I mean, you look at that side-by-side picture of Sidney Powell on one side and then Pam Bondi on the other, and I can tell you who I'd rather have as the Attorney General. I'll be honest with you, going back to the beginning of January when Trump picked out initially, it was Matt Gaetz, and I was super excited about Matt Gaetz. And that obviously didn't pan out. That was kind of a misdirection there. But I was always a little bit skeptical of Pam Bondi, just given her background. I mean, you see all the pictures of her, with John McCain and with Jeb Bush and all of these individuals. Yeah. You gotta have to wonder to yourself, okay, what's going on with this? And now I trust Trump. I trust the plan, the operation. So whoever they put forward, I knew it was going to be for a strategic reason. But Pam Bondi, I mean, she couldn't look any worse than she does right now, just optically speaking. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting she's necessarily a bad player that was basically taken and put under submission by the good guys. I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. Or perhaps if she was some sort of a double, some sort of an actor along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be a lot more surprised, quite frankly, if Pam Bondi was always a white hat and was always working with the white hats behind the scenes. To me, it seems as if she was kind of has that deep state creature pedigree, and that she's being used in order to do exactly what we were just talking about this entire time, which is to get people to say WTF is going on here. What are they hiding? Why is she not arrested anybody? It kind of makes sense when you think about it. If she was a swamp creature that was, let's just say, put under submission, central casting, however you want to say it, that she would be used in this capacity to generate the outrage, to get people to wake up. And then ultimately we would see a transition into a different attorney general. Let's just say maybe Sidney Powell. Very interesting that it was Bondi Beach that just happened to be in Sydney. And, right on cue, of course, with all of the information now about the 2020 election being put back on the front burner. Wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. If that's
the guy that was filmed, he was all made up, and he was at 7, or in Israel. He was there as well, eh? Israel 10-7 or 7-10.
Oh yeah, that's right. The guy who took a selfie
It's
when he was like bleeding on, he's got blood all over his face. Oh yeah, and there was also the other picture of him getting his makeup done.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
I mean,
yeah,
you got to be absolutely willfully ignorant at this point to think that these events are real. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's an overstatement, but I guess anybody who's even begun to ask questions. Yeah, I mean, what are the odds? Come on. There were two mass shootings on the same day. One of them was in Australia, the other one in Providence, Rhode Island, at Brown University.
Yeah.
Right after Trump dubbed Marjorie Taylor Greene Marjorie Trader Brown, and then right on the heels of that, we get a shooting at Brown University with two individuals, and so these shootings happen basically at the same time.
Yeah.
At two individuals at Brown who were survivors of previous incidents, previous mass shootings, which is like virtually impossible mathematically. Not in my opinion. Mathematically, it's virtually impossible.
Impossible, yeah.
And then you've got this other individual who just so happened to survive 10-7, and there he is. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, if I took a bullet and I was bleeding out of my head, I don't think I would be pulling out my phone and taking selfies.
It's just unbelievable. Yeah,
and that's not where the anomalies end, by the way. I could go on and on about that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The first batch of Epstein files is released within 15 days of completion of the release required under Section 2. This is this one, Patriot. I'll just read on what's mentioned here. The Attorney General shall submit to the House and Senate committees on the judiciary a report listing 1, all categories and records released and withheld. 2, a summary of redactions made, including legal basis. 3, a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in the released materials with no redactions permitted under subsection B. So this within 15 days, that is December the 19th, plus 15 days, isn't it? That must be 3 or 4th of January, or not? That we're going to get really unredacted stuff.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah. I mean, but again, are we actually going to? That's the big question.
We've got these new, fresh anons, yeah.
Well, right, yeah. So, I mean, it really, I wouldn't have any immediate expectations that you're going to see this process very rapidly come to an end. I think that they're going to continue to drag this on for as long as they possibly can to get more and more people, not only with eyes on, but really, really upset and deeply. I mean, getting beyond the point of saying, yeah, we want to see the information, to getting to the point where they're saying, okay, now you're hiding something. And now, we've got the entirety of the public basically on that side. As far as the timeline goes, it's anybody's guess. I mean, like I mentioned, on Christmas Eve, they just happen to be like, oh, look, another burn bag full of 100,000 documents here. I mean, that they could do something else in another week. So it seems to me very likely that there's going to be this, I don't want to say gradual. I think it's going to, I think the process is going to continue to speed up, but I don't think that it's going to be, well, that 15 days, once we hit that deadline, boom, everything is just going to come out. No. That's not the way that it's been scripted so far. So I would anticipate some more curveballs along the way. We've already got Ro Khanna, I think is how you pronounce his name, with Thomas Massey, essentially, holding Bondi in contempt, drawing up articles of impeachment for her because she didn't follow the letter of the law. And they just keep playing all these games. So it's anybody's guess how much more of that we're going to continue to see before they actually drop the hammer. Now, Trump did say in a post, I think it was yesterday, the day before, that he's essentially saying, okay, we want to get all of these names out there. We want to embarrass all of these Democrats and so forth. I actually referenced that a little while ago. But then after that, we really need to move on to election integrity and exposing the 2020 election. So we've got those two storylines that are really kind of playing out concurrently right now. And I think that in the early part of 2026, we're going to see some massive revelations, excuse me. But I don't really pay any attention to those, what the law says and what the timelines say, because again, we're watching a scripted movie, and you can't have the expectation that, oh, well, they said by this specific date, everything has to come out. So far, it hasn't played out that way. So I don't think it's going to continue. I think it's going to continue along those lines with, expect the unexpected sort of a thing.
Yeah, yeah. What puzzles me, if we believe the narrative, there are many, many characters that have been replaced by masks, actors. What's going to happen to them after all of this is over and done with? I mean, fake Biden, we've got fake Hillary Clinton, and fake this and fake that. We've got people in the Trump administration apparently are wearing masks. What's going to happen to these people when or these characters, I can better say, when it's all over and done with? Are they just going to disappear, or are going to take off their masks, or what?
It's an interesting question, and it begs a much larger question about the degree to which there's going to be a disclosure of a military operation. I mean, we're in the midst of psychological warfare right now. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Whether or not you think Q is a good psyop like we do, or whether you think it's a negative psyop that all of us are being played, no matter what, you can't deny that there is an ongoing psychological operation happening. The big question being, are we going to actually see the declassification of the Q military operation? Are they going to, at a certain point, just kind of square with the public and say, this has been a massive sting operation. We've had people playing roles, and we've had people infiltrating, so on and so forth, saying what they needed to say in order to advance the Overton window, so to speak? Or are they just going to ultimately continue to play the movie out, and these people are just going to exit stage left, and we'll kind of never hear from them again? And it might be several years down the road before there's actually an acknowledgement that, yes, indeed, there was a military operation going on. Where I stand on that is ultimately that I don't know when, and I don't know under what circumstances, but I do believe that there is going to be a declassification process of the fact that there's been a military operation, because the knot has become so twisted, like you were referencing a moment ago, with people in masks and people playing roles, and on and on and on, particularly within Trump's administration, that in order to salvage the reputations of these individuals and not make them appear to be villains if they're actually good guys, to me, it would seem logical that they would have to disclose certain aspects of the operation, not everything, but enough so that the general public knows essentially that they've been watching a movie. I believe that that's going to happen at a certain point, especially if, let's just say, going back to your earlier question about the emergency broadcast and the transition into military jurisdiction. These are all core principles associated with Q. So you can imagine that, let's just say, another 3-4 months go by, and all of a sudden we get the EBS, we get the transition to military jurisdiction. We start to get tribunals playing out, and so on and so forth. All of these things are directly aligned with the Q operation. So once the general public can see, like, holy crap, these Q-tards actually knew what they were talking about, that's going to become a nationwide conversation. And the only way to square that with the people, to a degree, is to explain that, yes, indeed, there was a military operation going on, and we did what was necessary in order to wake people up. I think that's going to have to happen. As a matter of fact, I think that if they don't do that, then it's going to have a detrimental effect overall on the Great Awakening, because people would still be believing in a false history. And the whole point of the Great Awakening is to get people to awaken to the truth. Yeah. Maybe not all aspects of it. I'm not suggesting that there aren't going to be certain things that might remain classified. For example,
over time,
in the early stages of the operation, the military covertly going after the top tier of the cabal, going in there and basically just taking people out. There might be, to some degree, some questionable legality associated with some of the things that they had to do in order to win this war. So some of the stuff might actually remain classified. I'm not naive in that sense. But as far as the big picture is concerned, I do think that the general public needs to be made aware that they actually witnessed the fake president, that they actually, that they've been subjected to all of these psychological operations. That's going to have an amazing effect. I mean, just imagine if that comes out, the military comes out, or whatever, whoever the spokesman happens to be, whether it's Trump, whether it's the white hats themselves, and they say, yeah, you've been watching essentially a scripted movie. Imagine the effect that that's going to have on the general population once all of these. See, I don't think they can do it before all the arrests and the exposure. I think they have to do that first. They have to expose everything. Then we have to have the arrest, the justice process, and so forth. And then on the other side of it, once people have already accepted these realities and these truths, then the white hats could say the only reason that we got here is because there was a military operation, because you were subjected to all of these psychological operations to get people to be able to get people prepared to accept these realities and these truths. So I think that's going to happen at a certain point. Some people disagree with me on that. A lot of the people I work with, they very much disagree with me on that. They think the movie is just going to continue to play out, and eventually there's going to be some sort of a seamless transition back into reality. I don't see it that way, quite frankly. I think there has to be a disclosure of what actually has been going on over these past several years for the public to be able to make sense of everything that's happened, everything they've been subjected to. So,
yeah, I mean, the masses will have to be educated and reprogrammed and get up to speed. And we want to know the truth. People want to know the truth, and they are entitled to the truth. So disclosure will have to come. I mean, when you look at JFK, the assassination of JFK, our generation, we still know what it is, but the new generation, the Gen Z, they don't know what happened then. So it doesn't emotionally affect them. But if like, how would I compare it? Like crimes against children. We have an idea who's been doing it. Would they reveal that the top tier of the people that have done it? Would they reveal that straight away? Or would they do it, like, say, in 20 years when these people are dead and gone? You know what I mean?
I think it depends. Some of the individuals who were probably caught up, let's just say, in the cabal's web of blackmail, but they didn't actually want to be a part of it, but they were blackmailed, and they were facing a choice between either remaining in secrecy and going along with this agenda, or having all of their family killed. I mean, those are the stakes.
They are also victims, huh?
A lot of these individuals were, in essence, victims. So those types of people, I think those are the ones who were basically told, you're going to play ball and you're going to do what you're told. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, then you are going to be able to, in essence, maintain your legacy and not have all of your secrets exposed, etc. The ones who are consciously evil, raping children, torturing adrenochrome and worse, no deals for those people.
Yeah.
And it has to come out. I mean, I've said this before, and this is a hill I'll die on. If it turns out that I'm wrong, mm-hmm. I still don't think that I'm going to be wrong in principle, which is that it's not a great awakening unless the people are actually brought up to speed and they're actually told the truth at a certain point in time. I mean, think about it. The whole purpose of all of these psychological operations, what's the rationale we've been saying over and over and over? It's to get people to wake up. It's to get people prepared to accept these larger truths. So if we go through all of this, and on the other side of it, so much is withheld from the public because the powers that be in the military decide that the public can't handle it, then there's no great awakening. Mm-hmm. And there would have been no point in going through this long drawn out process to wake people up if you weren't going to hit them with the truth and treat the people like adults. I mean, that's really what it is that they understand that by design, you've got a whole society of people, not just here in America, but worldwide, who have been victims of a mass MK Ultra program where they've been essentially, they've been the victims of arrested development. That's why you have a whole generation, a whole, these masses of normies out there who are being treated like children because they're not actually adults yet. They haven't gotten to the point where they're ready to accept the truth. And the way that I see it is that everything that we've been through up until this point is to prepare them for exactly that. So on the other side of that, if they don't actually reveal these things, I still think that I'm going to be right in principle, that you're not going to have a great awakening. I mean, you can't have, it's 2 + 2 = 4, no matter how you slice it. You can't have a great awakening if the people don't know the truth. If they don't know what these individuals did. Doesn't mean you have to put frazzled. I've said it many times. You don't have to put frazzle drip up in Times Square and traumatize everybody. That's not what I'm saying. But if you don't tell the truth and you don't expose these individuals at the end of all this, then it would have all been for naught, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a hell of a shock for a lot of people, but we've tried to bring them up to speed, tried to warn them as well. But it goes deep, Patriot. I mean, we only don't know a tip of the iceberg, but as you said, it's sickening to know. I mean, people that are on the know, I don't understand how they can, look away and not try and do something about it. It breaks my heart, thinking of all these kids at Christmas time and they're undergoing this terrible. It's a crime. There are kids, they haven't even seen daylight. They don't know what the sun is. They've been underground since. We know there are breeding farms down there, and there are teenagers, there are girls stolen. I mean, 8 million people or kids disappear yearly worldwide. 8 million.
Yep.
It's a number we can't even fathom, and they disappear, and or they disappear down under the ground in dumps, or they disappear in it's sickening to think of it, but. When you just realize how many McDonald's are there worldwide, and we haven't got as much beef to fill the hamburgers. It's that bad.
Yep.
It's what Sidney Powell said. It's you throw when you know it, and you see it visualized. You throw up. You can't sleep at night. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody is sitting here suggesting that we're not going to go through that. That's the eye of the storm, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
The enormity of what's coming is going to shock the world. Crimes against children will unite people across party lines. We were told in no uncertain terms that the truth was going to come out. These promises were made in the Q drops in various different forms. Now, certainly there were some caveats attached to that. Q told us we want I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but we want exposure. We want the truth to come out, but not at a price that we can't recover from. So it's kind of like, everything that I just articulated and you verbalized as well. You have to have the public be brought up to speed. Mm-hmm. You have to have the truth exposed. You also have to have justice for all of these victims. I mean, can you imagine getting to the other side of all this and basically saying, well, I don't know. I just don't think the public can handle it. So, the truth is never going to come out about all of these crimes that took place. That level of injustice for the victims in and of itself would be sickening. Yeah. So but it's a balance, so you can't you can't expose too much too quickly. And there are certain things I do believe that probably are never going to see the light of day. Some of the stuff, I shouldn't say never, but probably not in the immediate foreseeable future, where we're going to see some of these horrific realities fully exposed to the public, because I think that's what Q was telling us, was that, you're going to get exposure. There is going to be justice. There is going to be accountability. There are going to be, tribunals and on and on and on. Mm-hmm. But we also have to balance that out with, we can't traumatize the public to such a degree that people aren't going to come back from that. And so it's a difficult balance. But the way that I see it is that everything that we're going through and that we're going to continue to go through in 2026 is building that consensus where people have an idea of the the level of evil that's going on. It's being dripped out so that eventually, once those floodgates open, a vast majority of the public is going to be traumatized the same way we were. I mean, you can recall, and I can recall when we started to learn about these things. You're right. I mean, I was physically sick.
Yeah.
A lot of these things I've talked about on past episodes, and it brings me to tears. And I can't even fully bring myself to get into the horrific reality of it. I have to be in a certain frame of mind in order to even go there myself. It's a traumatic process, but ultimately I do believe at the end of the day, the most important thing is that adults need to be treated like adults, and we all need to come together as a society to
Heal.
To first to embrace the realities, the truth, and then collectively to heal. That's why I think that Q was started as this grassroots movement, so that all of us would go through this process. We're in a different category as all the normies. We're the ones who are being front loaded with all of this information so that we can lead, guide, and direct our fellows through this reconciliation of truth. It has to happen, but it has to be done in a very delicate manner with military precision. And that's the reason why it's a slow process. But if you look at, again, the subjects that aren't going away, the things that people are talking about now that used to be considered conspiracy theory. And you'll notice also throughout 2025, it's not just the exposure that's been happening, but it's also the deeper levels to it. Like they're gradually putting out more and more information about satanic ritual abuse. We're hearing all the time about these pedophile rings that are being swept up with babies and with infants and so forth. So the general public is getting, they're getting this drip of information, not so that they can just completely pull the rug out from underneath all of us and not expose everything. I think it's just the opposite. They're doing that so that they can get everybody ready for it. And it has to come out because at the end of the day, if you're going to choose between traumatizing the public and the great awakening and the justice for all these victims and all these children, it's a very clear choice. At the end, the fact of the matter is people are going to be traumatized. There's going to be crying. There's going to be some people who aren't going to make it. That's another unfortunate fact of war. We were told 4 to 6%. That's a big number of people who are never going to be able to accept it, who are never going to come back from this. A vast majority will, with the help of God, first and foremost, working through all of us. We're going to get to the other side of it, but not everybody. The end is not going to be for everybody.
He says that the end will not be for everybody. Q says it as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's a spiritual awakening as well. The awareness, and we all have to go through this portal, if we want to make it to the other side.
Indeed. And, we're not really worth our salt as human beings if we can't accept reality. And if we can't stand up for the children, if we can't stand up for innocence. I mean, that I believe, if you really want to know the truth, I think that is the reason that Trump, when he was invited to run by the military, sure, we have a million different problems, financial, geopolitical, domestic problems. We've got corruption absolutely rampant throughout the entire system. But I don't think that's ultimately the reason that Trump chose to step forward. I think it was because of the children. I think it was because of this satanic evil. He was chosen by God to be the leader, to be the figurehead of this movement, to galvanize all the Anons and ultimately the public on his side so that we could expose this horrific evil. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to unite the people. The only thing that's going to unite all of humanity is learning about and accepting the truth about these horrific crimes against children. Because, and I've said this many, many times, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter if you're old, it doesn't matter if you're young, it doesn't matter what color skin you have, it doesn't matter whether or not you're even a convicted felon. Even inside of prisons, even the hardest murderers have that code. You do not lay your hands on children. You do not violate children. And that is going to be the one thing that's going to unite the entire world. It may not be, I understand, a lot of different things could create that sense of consensus. Like I talked about earlier, The general public doesn't even know about all the stuff that we're talking about yet, but still they're on board. Why do you think it is that 90% of people are on board with exposing the Epstein files? Because we're talking about crimes against children. We're talking about crimes against humanity. And that is something that everybody, no matter what walk of life they are, can unite underneath that tent. And that exposes the hidden enemy, the enemy that's ultimately been targeting all of us and pitting us against one another. But the keystone is Epstein, because Epstein unlocks the whole picture. And that's really what this is all about at the end of the day. That's the reason that Donald Trump stepped forward. That's the reason why he chose to take all these slings and arrows for us, because it's always been about the children. Always.
Yeah. Just pivot to Russia, Patriot. What do you think of this guy? This is Kirill Dmitriev.
Oh, yeah. I've been paying attention to him for a while.
He's a special envoy of Putin, eh? And he seems to be up to speed on Q, eh?
Oh, yeah. That's putting it mildly. Yeah. He's a Q operative. No question about it. I think he was activated over this past year, in particular. I mean, that's really where he started to gain a lot of traction on Twitter. People started, or on X rather, people started to see more and more of his posts. He's got, like, he's posting Q slogans: nothing can stop what's coming. Where we go, one, we go all. We're going from dark to light. The handshake between Russia and the U.S. That whole emoji, and eventually now he's just flat out posting Q drops. So this is part of the operation, I think, as all of this geopolitical posturing moves us closer and closer to a World War III scare event, which, who knows? I mean, I happen to believe that's still very much a part of the overall picture of what we're looking at in terms of how this movie is going to climax. I've said that right from the beginning. A World War III scare event, a financial meltdown of sorts, and of course, on the domestic front, everything heating up in terms of ICE and the mass deportations. And
I like the way you say that. Things are heating up. ICE.
Yeah. But I think that all three of those things are going to play out somewhat concurrently as we get into the climax of the movie. And so this guy, Kirill Dmitriev, I believe was activated to underscore that famous rhetorical question in Q Drop 140. What if? We know that whenever Q asks a question, he's really actually telling us the truth. What if Russia, China, and others? Somebody put Nayib Bukele on that list, and several others along. You could add to the list. Are working together to bring about the end of the New World Order, or to take down the New World Order. I forgot exactly how it's phrased, but I think that's why he's been activated over this past year, to remind everybody this is a guy who has direct contact. I mean, he's literally super, super close. He's like Dan Scavino to Trump. Okay. So, and we know the role that Scavino plays in terms of putting out all the memes and the comms and everything else. I think he's Russia's point man for that.
Yeah. Sorry about the chat audience. I mean, I'm listening to Patriot, giving him the attention that he deserves, and I'm not really paying any attention to the chat. So there must have been some questions that I haven't seen. So I hope you just forgive me for that.
Yeah, I apologize. Once I get on a roll, I just it's hard to.
I'm not blaming. It's just I'm listening to you, and I'm not looking at the chat because it's I'm trying to follow the narrative, what you're telling me, and I'm jotting things down here, noting things down, and I'm not really looking at the chat. But I appreciate it that there are a lot of people watching. You've got at this moment you've got 1,700 watching on your Rumble, and I've got 1,147. That's a record. I've never had that
fantastic! Yeah, and there's also about 1,100 watching on X as well.
Wow, that's great. Talking about disclosure, sorry.
Oh, I just said so. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Talking about disclosure, Patriot, we've got this Disclosure Day. Steven Spielberg movie coming up on the 6th of the 12th of June coming year. And when you add these up, is 6 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 6. You get 17. So what's this all about? Do you think this is
Yeah,
a
and you've got the one eye showing as well, and that
Yeah.
there. So there you go. Yeah, and Spielberg was one of the worst from what we can understand. This is a guy who I would put in the category of Tom Hanks, some of the worst ones that needed to be dealt with. Are too dangerous to leave them on the chessboard, so to speak. These are the individuals that I was referring to before that, if you're consciously evil, and you're going to Epstein Island, you're doing these things because you want to hurt children, you want to rape children. If that's in your heart, I mean, these individuals have already been taken out. But yeah, this is just another calm amidst, at this point, I mean, they're all raining down. It's honestly, it's hard to keep track of all the comms, but just about every time something like this happens, there's a 17 involved, or there's some sort of a delta.
Or yellow, color yellow.
Yeah, the yellow. I mean, you saw Trump do the air Q on Christmas Eve. It just, I mean, they couldn't make it any more obvious.
Yeah.
These are nods to all of us. Again, these are the types of things that, the audience of this show, your audience, my audience, these are the comms for us. I mean, the general public, they see that, they don't see anything. That's the white hats telling us on a daily basis, because they knew that the deeper Q told us, the deeper we go, the more unrealistic it all becomes. In other words, the deeper we get into this process, the closer we get to the finish line, the more chaotic it's going to be. And the harder it's going to be for people to make sense of anything that's going on.
And to hold faith as well, huh?
It's all by design. That's fifth gen war.
Yeah.
It's the art of war, is to create chaos. And so, and in so doing, to camouflage where the next moves are coming from. But these types of things, they know, aren't going to slip by any of us. And certainly they're making them more and more obvious. I don't know. And it's interesting because I saw somebody post about this. Like, I don't know if the psyops are getting more sloppy and the comms are getting more sloppy, or the public is actually just getting more awake. It's kind of difficult to know the truth. It's probably a bit of both, to be honest. But these are the types of things that in an instant, people, they decode them and they're circulating all over social media. That's the good guys telling us, hold the line, we're in control, and you're going to love the way this movie ends.
How would you explain to someone that Q is real, the military operation is real? How would you explain it in 1 minute? Is it possible?
I don't think it's possible to explain it. I think you said a moment ago, it's a spiritual war.
Yeah.
And I do believe that. I've always believed that right from the very beginning. And I don't think that, I think that Q, as it is right now, eventually we just talked about the possibility of the operation being disclosed to a certain degree. But Q is really, it's a spiritual movement. It's for people who have the ability to see, the willingness to see. It's not as if the general public is too stupid to add up those numbers and see a 17. It's not as if the general public, once they've been, and I think they've actually done a pretty good job at showing us all of their symbols. One of them, of course, being the covering of the eye and the pyramid and all that sort of stuff. It's not as if they can't actually look at that and say, okay, that's actually some sort of a comm, or that has meaning to it. It's the fact that they're not willing to. It's the fact that they're completely like, oh, that's just craziness. There's like this wall of disbelief. A lot of it is the MK Ultra stuff, the mass MK Ultra programming that we've been subjected to. But ultimately, at a spiritual level, Q is for the people who are willing to see it and willing to look at it.
Yeah.
Can you explain to someone that there's a military operation going on and get them to accept the idea of Q? I mean, in a minute, certainly not. I don't even think you could spend hours and days trying to do that. If a person isn't willing to look at it and acknowledge it, they're going to brush it aside.
Yeah.
It's for us. That's the whole thing. Is the Q operation was never meant. Like the Great Awakening was never really defined by getting the entire public to recognize that, oh my God, there's an actual military covert operation going on. Quite the opposite, because that would minimize the effectiveness of it. They don't want the general public to buy in to this idea that there's an ongoing military operation. What they want is the public to buy into the optics of said military operation
Yeah.
to gradually red pill them. And then
Yeah.
once they've been red pilled and once the full exposure process has happened and we've gotten to the other side of the Insurrection Act and the EBS and the military tribunals and the Truth and Reconciliation period, then at that point, sure, then you could start to reveal those things, but it has to be in the correct order.
Yeah. Looking forward to 2026, Patriot. I want to discuss two moments with you. First, the midterms. What do you think of the midterms? Is Trump making it difficult for himself, or is he going to win this in the landslide? How's it going to turn out? What do you think?
Well, that's if we even make it to the midterms. I mean, let's not forget, we have the 250th anniversary of the Republic, which is in my opinion, I don't think there's a more perfect time to bring this movie to an end, quite frankly.
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah.
Okay, but putting that aside for the moment, as far as the midterms go, we were told all the way back in 2017 that elections at this point are no longer matter. Like that we've been under continuity of government for a long time.
Yeah.
The White Hats have been in control, I believe. When Q made that post, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I do recall there was very early telling us that elections at this point no longer matter. And we've had that point underscored several times along the way. One example that I frequently reference is Elon Musk, as we like to call him, saying that the only court that matters at this point is the court of public opinion, that everything is really just optics. So as far as the midterms are concerned, optically speaking, I think that's the reason why you're hearing Trump continue to beat the drum about the filibuster, because terminating the filibuster would essentially open up the floodgates in terms of his agenda. And all
would you just to interrupt you here, Patriot?
Sure,
would you just explain to the audience what the filibuster is?
Okay, yeah. So in the Senate, the filibuster, it's not even it's a procedure inside of the Senate. It's not even a law. It's basically just a senatorial procedure where, in order to get a bill out of cloture, as it's called, you have to have 60 senators on board to basically get it to the floor to a vote. So the filibuster is essentially the roadblock that gets put up where the Democrats, generally speaking, and the Republicans have done it as well, but they refuse to get on board, so to be a part of that 60 that it's necessary to get it to the floor so that it actually can be enacted into law. That's, I guess, an oversimplified version, but essentially that's what it is. It's a procedural roadblock in the Senate that prevents bills from moving forward without getting to 60, as opposed to a mere majority of 51. So if you were to eliminate the filibuster, what that would mean is all you would need is a simple majority of 51 senators to get a bill out of cloture and to the Senate floor to vote on it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So America 250, a lot of great plans there. Eh? Maybe free energy exposure and what have you? Real history. Tesla. We've heard of Ingersoll Lockwood as well. He's going to be the theme, I think. Eh? Ingersoll Lockwood, the writer.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't paid too much attention to the Ingersoll Lockwood drops, to be honest with you, but I know that it exists, and certainly as far as the 250th anniversary, look, I don't want to set any unrealistic expectations, not even so much for myself, but for the audience as a whole. I happen to think that, like I said a moment ago, it would be the ideal time to wrap up this operation and get us through the eye of the storm so that we could then begin to move forward into this golden age. But having said that, I think that at this point in time, we would all be wise to expect the unexpected in terms of how much longer this operation is going to continue. I have a tough time thinking about us all celebrating the 250th anniversary
without disclosure.
without disclosure, without the mass arrests and so forth. And even beyond that, getting into the midterms and so on and so forth. So I think that there's a real possibility that over the next several months, they're going to start winding this down. But at the same time, I'm also preparing myself for either one of those options. Who knows? Like we talked about a little bit earlier, getting to military jurisdiction. What's that going to require in terms of public optics? Some people would make the argument that, who knows? Maybe we see Trump continuing to fight to end the filibuster, but it doesn't happen. And therefore, his agenda isn't moving forward. The optics continue to look bad. The Democrats take power in the midterms. They take control of the legislative branch once again. And that could lead us into yet another chapter in this in this epic saga, leading us closer to military jurisdiction if it's going to go in that direction. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. But I'm very, very, very optimistic with all of the things that we've seen happen recently. I mean, like I mentioned at the top of the show, Epstein is on the front burner, the stolen election of 2020, the RICO grand conspiracy, the filibuster, silver is exploding.
Yeah.
We're generating a consensus on all these different issues. The Charlie Kirk event continues to yield more and more questions about Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA and honey pots and all of these things. I mean, it's so rapidly accelerating that I have a difficult time seeing us, go another year and still be having a kind of a similar conversation about, when are things going to really, hit their boiling point. But again, we've learned that throughout the course of this process, you just don't know how much longer they're going to drag it out. And I don't say that in a negative way. Like, I believe that whatever happens, however long it takes, it's going to be because it had to be that way. And we can't always see that over the horizon. I mean, there have been plenty of times along the way of this journey that not just myself and you, but Anons across the board have basically said, all right, this is it. This feels like it. We're at the precipice. And as we know, it just hasn't played out that way, and it's continued to drag on for longer. But the longer that it drags on, the more progress that we're making toward that ultimate unity and that consensus that we were talking about. So I trust Trump. I trust the military. Just to be clear, I don't think that it's going to go on into, I don't think we're going to get to next year and still be having a similar conversation. I personally think that 2026 is going to be the year. But I've been wrong before. We've all been wrong before. And the reality of the matter is that we're all along for the ride at this point. And as long as we can continue to track the trajectory of the operation and be able to, as we did today, point out all the different areas where we're making this massive progress and we're continuing to see the ball being moved up the field, so to speak, that's ultimately what's the most important thing.
Yeah, I don't think they're kicking the can down the road for nothing. It's a string of events, It's timing as well,
Exactly. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
Timing is absolutely everything. Somebody just put in the chat, every day we're one step closer. And that's the way I look at it. People don't like to hear, look, the reality is I could get on here and I could say, don't worry, folks. It's just over the horizon. I mean, I used to make that mistake a lot. Those of you guys who have been listening to me, going back, it's hard to believe I'm going to be coming up on 5 years in March since I started this journey. And in those days, in the early, first couple, 2-3 years, I genuinely believed when we were in the fake Biden era that we were like one step away. I was just like, I can't believe, I never would have imagined that we would get to this point and we still wouldn't have had all of the big booms that we've been waiting for. But I've learned along the way that, like you said, it's not just a simple matter of the White House deciding, they're not, we're just going to kick the can. We're just going to drag this out arbitrarily. No, it's always done for a reason and for a purpose.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's the way I look at it. I mean, I carve out that space to allow myself to readjust if necessary. But given the fact that everything is moving so rapidly on all of these different fronts as we move in to 2026, it seems to me like a pretty solid bet that we're going to see some some closure in the not too distant future. I hope and pray that that's the truth, but we'll have to see. I mean, the reality is I don't know, you don't know. Nobody that's out there on podcasts talking about it has a full picture.
If we know, the enemy knows.
That's exactly right. I mean, all we can do is sort of triangulate where we are in the overall operation. But at the end of the day, like I said before, you can choose. You either trust the plan and you trust the president, you trust the fact that the military is in control, or you don't.
There's no gray area. It's black or white.
I believe that. I truly do. At this stage,
yeah. Patriot, we agreed on 2 hours, and it's 2 hours now. It's 2 hours and 5 minutes, 6 minutes nearly. So I would like to ask you final thoughts.
Well, kind of along the same lines as I was just saying, you know, we're in a place right now where the world is changing.
Yeah.
And it's continuing with every passing day to get more and more obvious that we are a part of something much bigger than ourselves. And I have to remind myself of that as well. Earlier in the show, I spoke about the tendency that we all have at certain points to take our eyes off of the big picture and to focus on what we want to happen and the timeline and start going down that road of being critical. And, you know, I've said before that if you take, you take expectations and you take emotion and you add those together, it's all the chaos of fifth generation war. That's the quickest path toward getting blackpilled. You know, you have to be really careful. You have to protect your mind. It's a daily renewal of commitment that has to take place. That's why these shows are so important. That's why Anons are so important. I asked my audience that question recently. I mean, can you imagine what the world would look like if Anons weren't out there guiding everybody along this journey? Even though we don't know ultimately what the timeline is or what the ultimate destination is going to look like per se, there's a lot of different ways that it could play out. We're in a unique position, a divine calling, if you will, to lead everybody through this process. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, it's been an absolutely wild and crazy ride.
It's difficult as well at times. It's very difficult.
It's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult. But, you know, the reality is that once you've woken up and you've gotten to a certain level of consciousness, there's nowhere else to go. I mean, sure, you can switch off you can switch your brain off for a little while. You can distance yourself, take a little break from social media, and allow yourself some time to ground and to recalibrate. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is the whole purpose of our lives. Everything that we've experienced in our lives has been preparation leading us to exactly where we're at right now. We can never lose sight of how big this is. This is biblical, what's happening right now.
Q says it as well, eh? It's going to be biblical.
Exactly. So, you know, that's my overall message to folks is just continue to hold the line and just be aware that the deeper we get into this, the harder it's going to be in order for people to continue to maintain their spiritual grounding amidst all of this chaos, because it's always darkest before the dawn. So you can anticipate that of all the things that we've seen play out so far, it's going to be nothing in comparison to what the climax of this operation is going to look like. And that's what we need to remember, is that it's not about us. This is bigger than all of us put together. I mean, this is bigger than any one of us. We were called to be alive and awake and aware. And in our case, you and I, we were given a unique responsibility, given, you know, to build this community of followers and people who trust and believe. Not that we have all the answers, but that we're coming from a good place and we're honestly trying to guide folks along as we go through this process. These are the most important days of our lives. And so, you know, to me, that's what I have to continue to remind myself when I have a day where I'm focusing on myself. I can immediately recognize now that I need to like pull back. I need to take a little bit of a break. I need to recalibrate and keep my eyes focused on the big picture and keep my consciousness where it needs to be, on that sense of responsibility. Because I mean, Q told us you're given, I mean, this has never happened before in human history. The amount of intelligence sharing that's been disclosed to the Anons out there. I mean, this has never before happened, a military civilian alliance, and that you're being given this information for a reason. And it's not that it's like you have a responsibility that comes with this.
Mhm.
And that's what I have to remember. And it would be easy for me to, when I'm having a bad day, to, to just fire up a live stream and start talking about all my doubts and all of my, everything that I'm questioning and everything that I'm worried about and all these things. That's not my role. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still go through that. I'm still human, but all of us have the responsibility collectively of holding the line and carrying the torch across the finish line for as long as it takes. And the white hats are doing their part. We have to do ours. The military is doing their part. They're continuing to hit us with all of these different comms and reminders and deltas. And I mean, they couldn't make it any more obvious that they're in control. And we have to do our part, which is to continue to trust the plan, not blindly, of course, but being able to track the trajectory of the operation, all the things, all the positive things that we've spoken about today, and to look at it from the 40,000-foot view and stay focused on that and remind ourselves what this is really all about.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to thank you, Patriot, for your contribution to, like I said in the at the beginning, for your contribution to the Truther movement. I mean, what you're doing is terrific, and you're a real example to everybody. I'd like to thank you for that. It's really, I hope to, in the future, do more shows with you and with your colleagues as well. I'd like to thank you and thank the audience for the faith and also for the support. And also, yeah, subscribe to Patriot's social media, and you can also support him there, support his work, because you want to do this full time as well, Patriot. Huh?
Well, I'd like to at some stage of the game, but at the end of the day, I'm just a vessel. I never anticipated that I was really going to start podcasting. It was never an ambition of mine. This was something that I honestly felt prompted to do. And however the Lord wants to use me in this process, I've resigned myself to that and just said, okay, if I'm supposed to do this full time at a certain point, then the Lord will make that happen. He'll open up those doors. And if the opposite is true, if I'm only supposed to be here for a season, then that's the way it'll be. But, quite frankly, I'm at peace with it either way. I mean, certainly I appreciate everybody's support. I am ultimately hoping to move in that direction. So anything you could do to support that effort, you can see in the description. There's a number of different ways that you can support what I do. We spoke a little bit about silver. I mean, my goodness, I still think that we're just in the beginning stages of how much silver is going to skyrocket along with gold and precious metals. Yeah. And I work with Matt Geiger. He's absolutely amazing, really a true professional. But even more importantly, he's a man of integrity, and he knows he's an Anon just like all of us, and he wants to do right by people. So, if you're whether you've already been stacking precious metals or whether you're still contemplating making a purchase, he's the guy you want to speak to. So I always, I mention that to folks, a great way to support what I do. And indeed, there are a number of different things you can do to help me out. patriotunderground.locals.com/support. If you want to become a member of my locals community, you can make a monthly pledge or a one-time donation. And there are other links as well. I'm not going to go through all of them and bore folks with it, but check the description if you're inclined to help me out in that way. But I would say the most important thing, quite frankly, is just continue to pray for both Maestro and myself, and really for this movement as a whole. I mean, that's the thing that I want the most from people is just keep me in your thoughts and prayers, and try to keep all of us in the fight.
And that's what's very important, integrity.
Indeed.
That's what's very important. Patriot, thank you very much for this wonderful conversation. We wish everybody a fantastic and prosperous 2026, and everything what we wish for in good health, and especially keep the faith, because we're getting there very quickly.
Absolutely. Pray for good health, and just, pray for the children, pray for the truth and for disclosure, for all of those things that are ultimately what we're fighting for. And that's the thing I just want to leave everybody with. Just remember what it is that we're fighting for. Remember what brought you to the table to begin with, what inspired you to go down these rabbit holes and to seek out all this information. I mean, you know, people are putting in the comments, vindication would be nice. I agree. And we're all going to get there, folks. I mean, I understand it. People are frustrated. There's no minimizing that. The vindication is going to come. The justice is going to come. But this is a spiritual war. And ultimately, I mean, we talk all day about the white hats, and for good reason, because they're manifesting the plan. But ultimately, this is God's plan. And this is his timing. That's the other thing we have to remember. People have to, you know, really keep that at the forefront of their minds. If you really believe, if you're an anon and you're a truther and you really believe in the things that we all talk about so much, and you believe in justice for the children and all of this stuff, you have to remember that all of these things are not only are they worth fighting for, they're worth waiting for. And it's we're on God's timeline right now. And so we can get angry, we can get frustrated and upset. It's all part of being human. But at the end of the day, just remember, we're being liberated from evil. We're going from darkness into light. There's nothing more epic than that. And God has his hand on all of us. This is God's plan. So as somebody just put in there, stay centered, stay grounded, stay connected, stay in prayer. And ultimately, we're going to make it to the other side of this. And when we do, we're going to look back and I've said it before, but once we see this golden age really materialize, we would do it all over again in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Patriot, thank you very much. Thank you very much to the audience for joining in and all the questions and all the remarks that I didn't pay much attention to. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see each other in the not too distant future, Patriot.
Absolutely. I love doing shows together with you, and we should do it more often. We definitely should.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
God bless everyone.
Bye-bye.